I was waiting for one of you guys because I have played it a bit, and I will go back to it, and I will finish it eventually. And I can't get out of my head the most bang-on assessment of this game I've seen is Janet Choa from Giant Bomb, who is saying, like, if you're watching someone play this game, it looks like the game of the year. But it is fundamentally not very fun to actually play.
Tedious. Everything you do in this game is just tedious, because it's an open world game, and it's very much open world 101. And everything about it is like default 10 years ago open world setting. It has some like cool tone stuff, and I think some of the characters and dialogue is fun, but that's about it. Like the story is silly. It's about some dude who's killing everybody and wants to harvest the souls to revive his dead family or something. I don't know. I kind of zoned out toward the end. And that like it's not the deep narrative experience you'll remember for the rest of your life. So even that one thing that you'd hope it might have, it doesn't really. And I think it's fatal flaw. If you go into like the skill tree and the upgrade tree, you'll see that the vast majority of things you can upgrade, the vast majority of things you get, is that it makes the things you do slightly less tedious. It's like your attack speed will go up, or your crouch movement speed will go up, or you will have more of something. It's not like you have this cool new skill that kills people. It's just the things you can do are just a small bit less tedious to do. And if they made a game where it's like you started at that default state of like not being tedious, like this game is so tedious. That's the word. But it's so tedious that I immediately turned the difficulty down, not because it was hard, because I just wanted to get through the game faster.
It kind of reminds me, I had that with like the last Deus Ex game, whereas like it looks like all the upgrade options are like, here's how to make the game less annoying, grind so that you can do so. I'm like, nah.
I mean, like, a question. So, I know Dave played at least the first Evil Within, I want to say. I don't know if you played...
I have not played the second one, which is supposed to be awesome, but I have it because I got it in a sale for next to nothing.
Right, because, like, from what I remember, specifically, like, with the first Evil Within, is, like, conceptually, it was pretty cool, but, like, mechanically, it was, like, pretty, like, bland and just not that interesting to actually play.
I was thinking about that. Maybe with this game was like, I was almost, because I finished it and I'm like, this is utterly unremarkable in pretty much every way, but I think I'd play a sequel.
It comes, there was that era like that, and the Evil Within was one. I would say to an extent Watch Dogs was another.
Is a big one.
Assassin's Creed was the classic.
I'm just saying Evil Within because like it's Tango Gameworks, like it's they made Evil Within, they made this, so I'm just wondering if there was like a kind of crossover in terms of like, and they have some stuff there conceptually they're really cool with and like visually, but just mechanically they can't get over the line.
I also think this game was different at early points in development to what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
After the departure of what's her name?
Ikumi
Nakamura. I feel that game was supposed to be much more of a, like, you know, not out and out survival horror type game, but more of that and less of the... I feel like maybe they just took the path of least resistance after all the trouble there and just went, let's just plug what we already have into generic open world one.
It somehow makes
which is a shame.
Boring, which is like, how do you make and like the world is completely empty, and it is like by design for a narrative reason why there is absolutely nobody in this world. But the biggest sin this game does for me is it goes through like a multi-stage quest where you're putting together a motorcycle. And you're like, you go out and you get the oil for the motorcycle. You go out and get like parts for the motorcycle. Then you come back, you put the motorcycle together, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, at least the game's going to let me ride the motorcycle. Nope, it's a cutscene. It's like, you piece of shit game, you couldn't even give me a motorcycle. It is like the best thing about it, it's pretty short. You can beat the story in like 9-10 hours. So you can like blast right through it. I completely ignored the open world stuff because there's a bunch of side missions and a bunch of collectibles and all that nonsense. I'm like, no, I'm just going to finish your story.
I mean, I feel like in 2022, if you're going to do open world, you know, you have to do something pretty remarkable, and it doesn't sound like any part of this was in any way. So I understand why you would have just bypassed.
And they don't add any movement options. Fair enough, they didn't even let you use the motorcycle, but there's no like, oh, you can move across the world quicker. You can fast travel like any open world game, but there's no like cool movement choice that changes or speeds up how you move throughout the game. You can glide further. That's all they let you do. They make the gliding again less tedious, and it's As I said, I'd play a sequel because I think it's one of those where everything they did here is pretty boring, but it's probably a decent base to build something good on. But
yeah,
for this,
for sure.
don't play it.